Okay, let's play. Let's get comfy. Yo, okay. Everything's all Gucci. On, you get this recording. What? What the hell happened? What? Where's the 3D battle? Oh, game just bugged. Hold on, I also need to remove a lot of things on my phone. Got practically no memory left. $14 gigs of videos, god damn it. Gotta remove a lot of these. There we go. I don't know what the hell happened to the game though, so I'm just gonna reload state. There we go. Let's try and get this again. I need to record this for a friend. I mean, I could just clip it, but... what's going on? Very suspicious. Is it because I have a cheat on or something? What the hell is this? Oh, wrong button. Any cheats on? Ah, here they are. The cheats are on. We'll close that, see if it makes a difference. There we go. Damn. Yeah, that was me having a bit of fun with this save state. Just wanted to show that off more than anything. Like, what I've been doing with Heishin battles is I've been making, like, a deck, a real deck, that is actually usable, like, from the campaign. Then I've also been making dumb shit like that. Because I just like seeing what Heishin can do. It's very fun. Let's get into a real battle this time. Okay. Yeah, okay. That'll work. Okay. Yeah, okay. Do I win in one turn? No. Nekagal 2. I could use that. I think I'm much better off just using Gemini Elf, if anything. Almost choked. Oh, fuck off. What's wrong with you? Dickhead. You might try and trigger the glitch. Can't do it just yet, though. No! Forgot which save state I even used. This one? Yes, it was this one. Okay. I'll set Raigeki. That's fine. Bean's hand. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the 500, 500. No, 600, 600. Still, the fuck? What do I do? That. Right. Oh my god. Right. Oh, okay, fine. I'm gonna do that then. Amazing. Beautiful. Okay, hmm. I just realized my life points are that low. I can't risk anything. Beautiful. I win. course. I want to watch a video on the side. Or listen to a video on the side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna speed this up.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories. This is the hardest Yu-Gi-Oh! Game to date. From massive RNG for card drops to cheating AI, this game has a lot going for it. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, though, as there is a bunch to cover. This game originally came out in 1999 for Japan, but 2002 for North America, and I can agree, this shit is pretty hard. The rules of the game. Where do we start? Well, the rules are very unique at the time, as this was before the rules of the actual trading card game was finalized. The card level didn't matter in the slightest. They are just decorational pieces, and you could summon cards like Meteor Black Dragon and Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon with little to no problem if you have them. This game is special because of its mechanics that most cards confuse together, so it's a try and guess most of the time. The cards that you want most of the time are Thunder and Dragons, because any two dragons and one thunder, or the other way around, can make twin-headed Thunder Dragon, a super important card down the line. Spell and trap cards are mostly the same as the modern game, but equip spells and ritual spells are a tad different. Let's talk about ritual spells first. You need specific monsters on the field to ritual summon. The best example is Magician of Black Chaos, which needs Dark Magician, Winged Dragon number 1, and Blast Juggler. So let's not talk about these troll type cards, plus some of these cards are either available by the Japanese Pocket Station, which was only a part of Japan, or having to spend pretty much maximum starships that you can have, which is a painful grind to do. So anyways, now for equip spells, they are pretty cool as they can equip to specific monster types or characters and increase their attack stage by 1. Whereas Megamorph can increase their attack stage by 2. Attack stages equal 500 attack, so Megamorph increases by 1,000. They will come in handy later down the line. Out of all the traps though, Widespread Ruin is the best trap in the game as it destroys any monster that attacks, so it would be 100% needed during the final fight. The next thing I am going to cover are the Guardian Star alignments. These are somewhat important in the later game, but as of current, at the very beginning, they aren't. Every monster has 2 different Star Guardian alignments of Sun, Moon, Venus, Mercury, or Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune. These are based off the celestial bodies of our solar system, and to find out what is effective against the other is based on how far the planets are out from the Earth. This is the chart that helps show what is strong and weak against the other Guardian Star alignments, and this gives a monster a buff of 500 attack and defense, which can come in handy in the later duels against the final 6. Now let's talk about the card drop system. We have 4 tiers being SA Power, SA Tech, BCD Tech, and BCD Power, and this depends on what type of card drops from it, and each card is on the same chart of a certain percent out of 248, so this is where more of the RNG comes from. Some of the best cards like Meteor Black Dragon has less than 1% of dropping, and it is an essential card for the final battle. Power is based on beating the AI super fast with super strong monsters, and Tech is based on beating the opponent doing so many steps or just decking out the opponent. So it depends what drops too. Most of your time will be spent grinding the game in free duel mode against previous opponents, The characters you will be familiar with are Pegasus, Isis, now known as Ishizu, and the Meadow Mage. All three of these characters drop some of the best cards. Isis gives dragons, dragon treasure, and widespread ruin. Pegasus with Megamorph, and Meadow Mage with high-end monsters like Dark Magician, Gaia the Dragon Champion, and the less than 1% Meteor Black Dragon. For the cards that we don't get by drops because of RNG, we can get them by using the Star Chip feature, which we receive at the end of a duel by winning and can be used in the password menu. These cards range from 10 Star Chips to the 999,999 Star Chips, which is absolutely insane. But this is how we get a major of our Thunder monsters for Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, as this card will be your best friend throughout the whole game. And that is all the rules that we have to explain. And now let's get to the main part of this game. Before we get into phase 1, I want to talk about the story a little bit. High Mage Heishin finds the Forbidden Ruins to start the ritual to summon Dark Knights, granting him dark magic to obliterate anyone in his path with the most powerful cards we'll see later. As a highlight in other videos, we're going to take a look at how the decks generate. I'd like to thank Sukti TV for showing the math in their video, as we have a 3% chance of getting an equip for Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, a Raigeki, and a Dragon plus Thunder, as each deck generates with one equip, one field, and removal card. For Raigeki, you have a 50-50 chance, as the other option is Dark Hole, but the former is leagues better. You have a 33% chance of getting Yumi or Mountain out of the 6 field spells, and out of all 33 equips, we have only 5 that are viable, which are Invigoration, Dark Energy, Horn of Light, Dragon Treasure, and Beast Fangs, making it this an 18% chance. So we have a total of 3% to get the best spells right off the bat, and that would be a great start. My run after restarting with 0 dragons and 0 thunders, but we started with Mountain, Raigeki, and Dragon Treasure, so I knew I would have to grind some to get the dragons and thunders needed. Most I could do at the start were fusions between plants and zombies to make Pumpkin the king of all ghosts, which is a really great card to start off with if you don't have thunders or dragons. Now, this is the thing about this game. Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon is your best friend for 100% of the game if you can do it. This phase is the easiest of them all, being the introduction and tutorial level of the game. You can duel a total of 8 people in this section, being Simon, Teana, Jono, Villager 1, 2, and 3, Seto the First, and the evil mastermind himself, Heishin. The first person we encounter is Simon, and after that, we have the option to duel him or run away. If you duel him, you can leave easily later. You can also grind and duel him a lot to get a lot of good drops. One thing I really want to preface before we get into this more: save after every one you duel. You can do this by going to the card shop, as if you lose once, you lose all your game progress, and you can also save in the menu screen if you were in the option where you can go campaign, free duel, deck building, password, and save. After that, we're going to grind our character a little bit on Simon so we can get a few better cards. After that, we can go to the dueling grounds, where we run into Teana, Jono, and 3 villagers, but Jono comes later. After beating all 4 of these, we can go to the ceremony in the plaza, and we see our friend Jono dueling who looks to be Seto. And then we challenge Seto to a duel, but before the duel happens, he is called away by High Mage Heishin. And then we just go back to the duel grounds and duel Jono, and Seto pops up.
I don't know why I kept that in
to
attack. That was
get
actually
the
just
match.
stupid.
After we defeat all those characters, we're going to continue the story by going back to the palace, and we head to our room by the command of Simon. And then Heishin attacks, and we have to run and escape, but the mages, Seto and Heishin, are there to stop the attempt, and we are forced to smash the puzzle on the ground. But before that even happens, we have to duel the High Mage himself. He has the strongest cards in the game at this point, and you must lose against him to progress the story. His deck contains many powerful cards, including Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth and Black Skull Dragon. It even has a chance to draw all 5 pieces of Exodia if the game goes for too long. For this part, you're supposed to lose against him, and to leave, you must smash the puzzle that Simon gives you to progress further, so Heishin doesn't get to finish the ritual he wants to do. As we enter phase 2, this part of the game is actually quite fun, where we have to meet most of the characters we have to grind against for good cards. It is a tournament-style event at the Kaiba Corporation, where we have to duel against 9 characters throughout the event. Rex Raptor and Weevil Underwood are the easiest of the 9. My Valentine, Banjo Keith, Shadi, and Yami Bakura can give you a little extra trouble if you aren't prepared. And finally, Pegasus, Isis, and Kaiba can give you a run for your money, as those 3
I would
have
argue
powerful
that,
monsters if you aren't ready. Ranging from Black Skull
Weevil
Dragon from
isn't even
Isis,
that
Meteor
easy.
Black Dragon from Pegasus, and
Like,
Blue Eyes
sometimes
White
you can
Dragon
be
from
completely
Kaiba. After
shafted
each duel
with
in the
the
tournament, I
combination of
suggest
UI,
bathing
Weevil,
as you head
which
back to the card shop so you can edit your deck, or return to the title menu to do free duels to grind cards from Rex Raptor. Rex Raptor gives you useful cards like Dragon Zombie, Crawling Dragon number 2, and the chance to drop either Oscilla's Hero number 2 and Electric Snake on POW SA. And if you choose to grind on Tech SA, you will be able to drop Beast Fangs and Invigoration to help boost your twin-headed Thunder Dragon's attack to help during the final six. The next main character we'll be stopping at to grind is Pegasus. During the Kaiba Corp tournament, we'll be cautious about Pegasus as he has a 0.39% chance of summoning a Meteor Black Dragon, which could be hard to deal with as most of our cards cannot attack over it, unless if we previously grinded to get the equip spells from Rex Raptor. Everyone's favorite character, because he drops some of the best cards in the game. If you grind on the Tech SA option, he can give you Dragon Capture Jar, Yumi, Megamorph, Bright Castle, Harpy's Feather Duster, all with a good chance out of 248 or a 0.1% of a crush card virus. So you can grind him if you want to get all these specific cards, but I highly recommend getting Megamorph and Dragon Capture Jar. After Pegasus, we finally duel against Ishizu, formerly known in the game as Isis. I love import translations, man. Super nice. She is one of the harder opponents, as I said before, as she can rarely summon Meteor Black Dragon at a 0.49% in the starting hand or during the duel, which is why we grinded Pegasus and Rex Raptor prior to the duel, so we have an easier time going into this. After we defeat her, we can grind for certain cards from her in Tech BCD, like Umi, Dragon Treasure, if Rex Raptor didn't drop any, and Widespread Ruin, a super important card for later. And finally, after this, we go on to duel Kaiba, the final opponent in our way to get back to the Ancient Warrior, because after dueling Shadi, Isis, Pegasus, and Kaiba, we obtained all their Millennium items, so we head back to the next phase. As we enter phase 3, this is where the difficulty curve ramps up. We are in the final part of the game before we can fight the final 6. First off, we must go to the Pharaoh's Palace to fight the Mage Soldier, as we can find that Simon left a map for us, so we can find the Forbidden Ruins that Heishin found at the start of the game. When we head to the old duel grounds, we run into Jono as he takes us to the hidden duel grounds, and we can opt to duel him, Teana again, and the 3 villagers again, if we wanted to, and this is where the bulk of the duels are handled. In the map, we can only go to 3 places right now, being King's Valley, Shrine of Glory, and the Old City. Since we already have the map from Simon that we left for us, we can head to King's Valley to run into Sedan, who takes us to the Forbidden Ruins. As we look at the art on the wall, Seto appears and tells us we have to fight all 5 High Mages to attempt to fight High Sage Heishin. Let's talk about these mages, shall we? Each of the High Mages are in their respective temples that align with the field spell that they use. Martis and Stekmazen being the weakest of the 5, using Wasteland and Yumi, since they don't have any monsters over the attack of 2600 without the buff of the field spell. As Tenza, Kapura, and Anubisius being the strongest of the 5, Atenza is a High Mage of the mountains, and he can normally start off with Black Skull Dragon or Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon with the 500 attack and defense bonus, but it has a 0.05 chance of starting out with a 4000 attack Meteor Black Dragon. Anubisius, the High Mage of the forest, can start off with a 4000 attack Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth, and finally Kapura, the High Mage of Meadows, has a huge chance to start off with a 4200 attack Gate Guardian, which is extremely hard to deal with if you don't have the right equipped spells or Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon at this point. So before we actually defeat all 5 of the elemental mages, we have to fight the smaller mages, or the protector of the shrine. All of them have a secondary mage that we have to go against in succession, so if we duel one and leave and come back, we have to duel that one again to duel against the high mage. Now, before we defeat all of them, let's defeat half of them, or 2 to 3, I should say, as we have a side option we can do. This side option allows us to save a kidnapped Teana from Seto and his guards, and along with that gets one of the final 7 out of the way to make it the final 6. The one we duel is Labyrinth Mage. Before dueling Seto, Labyrinth Mage has a good chance to start off with a Gate Guardian at 3750, and since we grinded all the needed cards, so this duel would be easy. After that duel, Seto II, and with him, he has a chance of opening Gate Guardian as well, with a super tiny chance of opening a Meteor Black Dragon or Black Skull Dragon. But do you see the trend with these final duels? So far, all but 2 have had high attacking monsters that can blow you away if you get swarmed a little, or cannot deal with their monsters fast. Now, after defeating Seto II, we can prepare for the final 6, which is a ton of grinding ahead, and we can defeat all the final mages. So let's get into the final 6, and this is where it gets tons of bullshit. Where do I start? The final 6, or should I say the final 7, because Labyrinth Mage was one of the 7, but we defeated him earlier on the optional path to make it where we only have to do 6 duels instead of 7. These 6 are the epitome of bullshit by having 20 card hands in their starting hand and can adjust their hand if needed, which have been proven by Game Sharks. They have a greater chance of opening cards like Gate Guardian, Meteor Black Dragon, and Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth, and for Seto III and Nightmare, Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon in their starting hand. Now, about the final 6 real quick, you must beat them straight in a row with no breaks and no saving. So if you lose against one, you have to start over again. The 2 biggest roadblocks are Heishin and Seto III. Now let's get into the final 6. The final 6, where do we start? Well, first off, we have Sebek and Neku, then we have Heishin II, Seto III, Dark Knight, and the final boss, Nightmare. They are the strongest characters in this game. Out of all 6, Sebek and Neku are the easiest of the 6, as their highest monsters are Metal Zoa from Sebek at 3000, and Skull Knight at 3150 for Neku, with the help of Yami. After you fight against them, you go against Heishin II and have to duke it out against him, having a high chance of Megamorph and Gate Guardian that now can go up to 4750, which is why we grinded for these equipped spells in Widespread Ruin. With Heishin II, he will either get strong monsters out and you instantly lose, or you get good RNG where he doesn't draw Gate Guardian. Normally what I do is summon a Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon in defense and see what happens. If he doesn't summon a Gate Guardian, it is an easy game. If he does, you'll most likely lose and have to start again. With a 3.13% chance of getting a Gate Guardian and a 7.56% chance of drawing a Megamorph, which you'll most likely lose a few times against him. After defeating Heishin, we go on to duel Seto III. This is where most run end, even for speedrunners, as most of the time flawless attempts never happen. The least amount of time someone went through the final 6 in a speedrun was 2, but at most it can take up to 12 tries. That is how brutal this gauntlet of 6 are. Seto III is a character that cheats the most by having the allotted 20 card hand, along with a 4% chance of starting with a Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. And in his deck, every card has a 4% chance of being a Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, so 99% of the time, he will start with 1. This is the epitome of cheating on a different scale, being able to summon a monster with 4500 attack turn 1 and can summon a second one without hassle. This duel is a handful if you aren't prepared and ready for it. Cards I do recommend getting are Dragon Captured Jar and Widespread Ruin exactly for this duel. And when I say he cheats, he absolutely cheats, because people have Game Shark the game and saw that his hand adjusts to what you have. Finally, we have defeated 4 of the 6, and next up is the final boss, or should I say the final bosses. As we defeat Seto, Heishin is able to get all the Millennium items and revive Dark Knight, but Heishin is soon betrayed, captured in a Millennium card, and burnt to a crisp. This is a fun way to go out, right? But at least we must duel Dark Knight and his second form Nightmare to seal him away for good. These two are easier than Seto and Heishin, but still relatively strong, still able to put strong monsters out on the board like Meteor Black Dragon and Black Skull Dragon for Dark Knight, and is an easy sweep. But after defeating Dark Knight, he refuses the loss and turns into his true form, Nightmare, and instantly puts you into another duel. His deck is different from Dark Knight and has no spell and trap cards, but instead of having high-end monsters like before, he has all of them we've faced, from Black Skull Dragon to Meteor Black Dragon, Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth, Gate Guardian, and the legendary Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Nightmare's lineup is a gauntlet of high attacking monsters to swarm you out of the game and make you lose, unless if you get extremely lucky with your draws or the AR RNG. After we defeat the final 6, we seal Dark Knight into his tomb once again and bury it so it can never be found, and become the pharaoh of this ancient land, and named after Yu-Gi-Oh! When I ran the final 6 on stream the other day, I was lucky on my 4th attempt and didn't see a single Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, which was extremely lucky, and they were summoning monsters in defense. I was astounded that those never popped up, and it happened this way. The RNG drops I had before going into them were crazy, as well as Pegasus gave me a Megamorph and Meadow Mage gave me a Meteor Black Dragon to make it a tad easier later in the gauntlet. I'm going to be adding the 4th attempt onto this video, so if you want to skip it, you can go to this timestamp here, or you could watch through the whole thing, but there is a special message at the very end. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Attempt 4. I should put attempts instead of final 6 losses. I'm gonna see what he drops first. I should have switched to defense. Zoa, that's not that bad. Wow, where were you last game? Dragons and didn't draw a single one. I'm gonna guess 10 times in a row. It'll take me 10 tries. Super Warline. This man's pulling out all the classics. I'll take the Immortal Thunder. A little bit higher attack, Thunder Monster. I can take out the Wood Remains. If I get another Gruesome Goo, I would probably... Yeah, that's not common area attack. Had the future on was went to think. Well, I'm tied up 13 Thunder Dragons. These two are just buys. And I'm fine with it. I just need to have all the RNG aligned perfectly. As we did. Let's see. Yep. This we've gotten was Seto. Thunder Dragon is the only good dragon that there is that you can fuse up into when you don't need certain pieces like Red Eyes Black Dragon or a Meteor Dragon. The ultimate card. Exactly, it's the ultimate card. It's the one card that speedrunners always try and get to so they can win against all this random RNG mess. Let's see if we can get another quick spell. I hope he goes on the easy mode, like what happened last time. 20 card hand sets down Uchuni.
Oh, fuck off.
Well.
This bullshit again.
Well, we win. We got a Meteor Black Dragon on the field, 4,500. Now we need a subsidiary of Twin-Headed Thunder Dragons. Will we see Gate Guardian this time again? Because last time he didn't summon a single Gate Guardian. I don't think so. Wait, those... I shouldn't have a detect... Oh, it's just... Megami. Cool. Heishin is down. Again. We need good RNG for the next battle. Against Seto the Third. Empress Judge on S rank POW 5-star. 5-star chip points. And now we're back to spamming A for dialogue. Let us go to the Forbidden Runes. I'm happy that I got S rank on Heishin. Is it Heishin or Heishin? Or does it not matter? Well, let's hope that this is a very beautiful card. Let's hope this works out very well. It's kuru. Let's just summon out the twin-headed thunder dragon. I know, right? It's fun. That's not a twin-headed thunder dragon. That's the thousands dragon. I lied. Should have went the other way. I'm sorry. What now?
Most Yu-Gi-Oh games have a high amount of luck involved, which often leads to a wide variance between each playthrough. However, if you've been keeping up with the classic speedrunning scene, you might notice that for one game, this isn't quite the case. This is Yu-Gi-Oh! The Sacred Cards, a top-down RPG released on the Game Boy Advance. And if you look at the leaderboard, you might notice that after second place, there's a huge time difference compared to the third place run. But not only this, both the first and second place times have quite literally perfect luck throughout the entire run, beating every single opponent in the game on the very first turn, and doing so with the very hard to assemble 5-card Destiny board set. But how is this possible? And how did we get here? Let me take you back to 9 years ago, when the first Sacred Card speedrun was posted on speedrun.com. This was by a runner named Cards of the Heart, and it clocked in at 1 hour, 29 minutes, and 12 seconds, and was notably done on the English version. This wasn't the first ever speedrun of the game, but it was the oldest valid speedrun, considering it was done on a real console. Speedrun.com was rather new at the time, and being posted there would give the game some revamped attention, and slowly, the community around this game started to take shape. Over the next year, the world record was traded around by a number of different people, such as Infinity Runner, Nazi Games, Blackwind 5, Sparcy, and eventually grinded down to 45 minutes and 19 seconds, achieved by a runner named Otaku Haven 72. All of which were using the same basic strategy of using the password machine to obtain the best low-costing monster cards and the strongest spells and traps that the game has to offer. There's also a secret password that they started to utilize that increased your deck capacity by a small amount and gave them a pretty big boost to start the game with. Switching to the Japanese version of the game was also a huge optimization, as it saved over 8 minutes with its condensed text that also loads much faster than the English counterpart. And while progress was quick, it did come at a cost. You see, there was a big divide in the community on what the rules of the speedrun should be, and everyone was kind of doing their own thing in one big category. This drove the community to band together and establish a set of rules that they could all agree on. And after all the dust settled, the Japanese version of the game and use of the password machine would be allowed in the main category. However, the use of Visual Boy Advance was prohibited in favor of more accurate emulators like BizHawk and MGBA. This would invalidate a majority of runs on the leaderboard, and their times would be removed, erasing much of the early history for this game. This new rule set was met with much frustration, but ultimately inspired confidence in the community and attracted the attention of more serious speedrunners. This kicked off an era where the world record was hotly contested by a few key players, and with all the Visual Boy Advance runs removed, this meant that the world record was now held by Cards of the Heart, who had in the meantime switched to the Japanese version of the game and achieved a console time of 49 minutes and 3 seconds. As competition started to become thick, the need for more efficient movement and menuing started to rise, and many runners started to notice something interesting while grinding out attempts. They began to notice that if their movement was extremely on point, they would occasionally get the exact same series of starting hands between duel to duel, and the opponents would also have the exact same cards and always played them in the exact same order. This was saving the runners a ton of time when it did happen, as knowing what cards you were going to draw and the cards your opponent was going to play allowed you to rehearse those moves ahead of time and win each duel in the fewest amount of turns possible, without even the need to think about your plays or risk the chance of losing the duel. As more runners started to become aware of this, it was inevitable that they would try to incorporate this more and more into the existing route. And just a few months after Cards' 4903 sat on top of the leaderboard, Otaku Haven 72 would reappear on the scene after being banished to the Shadow Realm, and this time he was using an official console. Otaku would start to rely on this manipulation to save a ton of time during the early parts of the run, and was able to replicate the same RNG pattern all the way up to Weevil before having to play out the rest of the game normally. And in doing so, he would end up taking the record back from Cards of the Heart in just a few months.
Hold on, I got it! Got it!
Waiting for it. Waiting for the split.
48!
Yeah, in your face, card of the heart. Yeah.
This was pretty hard to keep up with at the time. However, a once up-and-coming speedrunner by the name of Xandergoth had reached his final form, and soon after that, he used the manipulation strategy against Otaku to beat him at his own game and bring the world record time down to 48 minutes and 23 seconds.
No way, dude. No way. Fucking sick, dude. Holy sh. What the dude?
With the world record battle fully underway, Cards of the Heart began to take a step back and noticed the full potential of this RNG manipulation strategy. And instead of grinding out attempts, he would optimize his movement paths in such a way where he could get a very consistent result. This could be seen in areas like after he duels the ghoul in the alley, where he buffers inputs as the scene loads in order to navigate certain areas in a consistent manner. Cards would plan out the movement for the entire game ahead of time, which would allow him to carry the RNG manipulation further than anyone had before. And after returning to land at attempts with this route, he would be the first runner ever to use this strategy and complete an entire run which was fully manipped, this time reclaiming the world record and beating out Xandergoth by nearly 4 minutes.
Good. We in there. We in there. It's not quite 44:30, but it's good enough for me. 44:34. Yeah, that's good enough.
While this was an incredible feat, the way manipulation worked was still a bit of a mystery. After all, there would be sections of the game where being 1 frame late would completely ruin it. But in other parts of the game, like when you do Weevil in the park, or the Robo Brothers in the alley, you could run around or just hang out for a while, and the RNG would be exactly the same. So what's up with that? Well, we wouldn't find out for almost 4 full years, as beating Cards of the Heart's run would require an immense amount of effort to design a better route and was pretty intimidating to new would-be runners of the game. But as the record stood there gathering dust, it eventually caught the eye of an absolute monster. This is Jika 2006, a British speedrunner with a deep resume of Yu-Gi-Oh! Speedrunning achievements. He's widely known for his work on many past and present world record routes, most famously Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories and Duelist of the Roses. After hearing about the manipulation in this game, he became curious and decided to take a look for himself. It was there that he discovered that the RNG value related to the cards you draw is the same RNG value that active NPCs use to move around the map. he noticed that every time they come to a complete stop, they're actually scrolling through random values with potential paths to take for their next movement. Once they land on a value, the RNG seed then freezes as they start walking in the predetermined path. And once they reach their destination, they start scrolling through values again in order to determine what direction they should move next. This meant that by only starting duels while the NPCs are in motion and timing the screen transition to be aligned with their movements as well, you could very consistently carry the RNG manipulation throughout the entire game. But refining the RNG manipulation was only the first part of his master plan. He discovered that, unlike other Yu-Gi-Oh games that store your deck in the conventional format of monsters, spells, then traps, this game instead builds the deck dynamically in a first-in, first-out order. So if we were to take this deck as an example, if we remove this card and immediately add it back into the deck, it would get removed. The cards behind it would move forward one slot, and then it would get added back to slot 40. This meant that he could track the cards that were going to be in his opening hand during the manipulation route. And before each duel, he could systematically add and remove cards to shift any desired cards into those specific slots, giving him the ability to craft his starting hand for each duel. After discovering this dark power, he then did away with the classic beatdown deck and decided to replace it with something much more appropriate. Naturally, he began to explore using Exodia, which would be a perfect fit for this strategy, as you can win the duel instantly and even if your opponent is going first. However, since all the pieces are limited to one copy per deck, it makes shifting them into the correct slots a little bit tedious, and he quickly saw an alternative option that would prove to be much more efficient, and that was the Bakura namesake Destiny board. But this was only viable because this card received a massive buff in this game. Since the Sacred Cards was in development before the Destiny board card was released in the TCG, like many other spells and traps, it doesn't quite reflect its effect in real life. And in this game, you could actually play the Destiny board letters straight from your hand onto the battlefield, making it nearly equal in power level to the Exodia deck for a manipulation strategy. But most importantly, you could play 3 of each combo piece, which was a huge speed advantage as you can fill out more of the deck slots with combo pieces and even allows you to set up multiple manipulations at one time when stacked correctly. So with all these pieces in place, he would begin to map out his deck and track the starting hands for every single duel, allowing him to design the perfect series of deck edits that would give him a turn 1 Destiny board victory on every single opponent. And when the route was complete, Jika would begin his grind, and within a couple of days, he would tear through this game at a speed no one thought was possible, beating the OG Cards the Heart by nearly 14 whole minutes and obsoleting a decade worth of developed strategies in the process.
Yep. Yes. Yes.
Now, this game was already pretty inactive compared to its glory days, and this new world record was even more intimidating to new runners compared to Cards' early route. Because of this, new runners were pretty much ignoring the world record and instead went back to the beatdown and prey strategy of the early days. Among these new runners was a user named Arts and Crofts. He would begin to play this game a few months after Jika's 3113, and slowly he would work his no minute time down to 50 minutes and 38 seconds, getting him all the way to 8th place on the leaderboard. But with no real incentive to grind his time down even more, he would lose interest and start focusing on other games, leaving Jika's world record safe for now. However, after taking a 2-year break from the game, he would return with a fresh outlook on the speedrun and was determined to learn Jika's Destiny board route. After memorizing all of the deck edits and movements, he would seek to optimize everything he could in the current route, with everything from the overroll movement to the menuing and dual actions. After practicing every section of the game over and over again, he would officially return to speedrunning the game in February of 2022. And when his grind was over, he would leave his mark on the game. And with all of his optimizations, he would end up beating Jika's 3113 by almost an entire minute, achieving a time of 30 minutes and 15 seconds, which is where the record stands today.
Holy moly.
Hmm.
Whew. Look at that.
Now, even though Sacred Cards has been essentially pushed to its limits, with only minor optimizations left to capitalize on, that doesn't mean the story will end there, as there's always room for new strategies and optimizations to be discovered. And if you want to know what happens in the next chapter of the Sacred Cards speedruns, be sure to subscribe and stay in touch with some classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games. I'll be cooking up some more content in the kitchen, but if you have any suggestions of games you want me to check out in the future, be sure to let me know in the comments, and in the meantime, stay clean, scrubs.
Super Saiyan 3 is a bad transformation. Don't leave an angry comment or a death threat yet. Just hear me out. The first thing that I have to make clear is if you think Super Saiyan 3 looks cool, I agree. In the anime, at least. The manga was hit and miss for me. Speaking of the manga, I want to be clear, my focus really is on Dragon Ball's manga, and by extension, the manga-accurate portions of Dragon Ball Z. So, the non-canon Dragon Ball Z movies, those are fine with me. If anything, Super Saiyan 3 is cooler in the 2 Dragon Ball Z movies it's in than any other time in the series. So if those are your reasons for liking Super Saiyan 3, great. I love that for you. But in terms of the story of Dragon Ball, it's a really big miss for me, and I think I can explain why in 3 points. And more importantly, I want to end this with how I think Super Saiyan 3 could have been better used. I don't want this to be all negative. Let's start with character assassination. I think we all know by the time of the Buu Saga, Toriyama was getting tired of Dragon Ball and seemed to start having a more cynical outlook on Goku as a character. This is especially clear as the arc progresses. Goku starts the arc as someone who's willing to sacrifice his one day on Earth in order to protect the planet from an unknown threat. He's constantly trying to make sure that Buu isn't revived, and despite being lighthearted about Babidi's weaker minions, he continues the seriousness through the Majin Vegeta encounter, and even his limited time on the lookout after he wakes up from Vegeta's sucker punch. There, he's even surprisingly strict when he's training Goten and Trunks to fuse. He's not playing around, and the story is doing everything to tell us that he isn't. Then this is all immediately undermined by Goku revealing he has Super Saiyan 3, since the form could have stopped Buu from being revived in the first place. Some people seem to think that Goku using Super Saiyan 3 would have given more energy to Buu's revival, but that's just wrong. Buu doesn't just collect power from the air or whatever those people think. He specifically gets energy from fighters that aren't Babidi's minions being damaged. This is why Pui Pui and Yakone getting killed didn't help to revive Buu. The energy only comes from the damage they deal, not the damage they take. That's why Goku says he wants to end the fight with Majin Vegeta quickly at full power. He's taking the threat of Buu seriously. Oh, did you catch that? Yeah, read it again real quick. Goku's supposedly fighting at full power here. Super Saiyan 3 makes Goku a massive liar in retrospect, and not just one little lie to Vegeta either. He lies to Piccolo about being unable to beat Buu at all, to then simply being unsure if he can beat Buu as a Super Saiyan 3, which is a bit better, though it doesn't solve the Vegeta issue. Goku explains that he didn't use Super Saiyan 3 against Majin Vegeta because of the time limit, but if he was able to bounce Buu around like a paddle ball long enough for Trunks to get the Dragon Radar, I think he had more than enough time to knock out Majin Vegeta. Then later, Goku flat out brags he could have beaten Buu when he first fought him, but chose not to. Not even pretending there was doubt anymore like he did to Piccolo earlier on. It's insane when you compare this arrogant Goku, who's about to not beat Kid Buu, by the way, after the Earth was destroyed and all of the people he loves were killed, to Goku at the beginning of the arc, who's more concerned about the potential of this threat than his one precious day on Earth. I think you could see Toriyama's cynical view of Goku evolving over the course of this story, and ultimately it hurts Goku as a character, and it's all rooted in Super Saiyan 3 existing as a form for Goku. Like, imagine Goku was strong enough to beat Cell in the Cell games and just chose not to. That would suck, and people would cry about it even more than they already do with the Senzu beam. The reason Goku fights Cell first is to see if he can beat Cell without having to rely on Gohan. If he could have won, he would have won, and he says as much to Gohan. It's powerful when Goku gives up. It affirms to us that Gohan is the sole chance for Earth to survive, because we already saw how everyone couldn't begin to compare themselves to how strong Goku was. It's not just Goku making a risky choice to gamble on the next generation that seems completely out of character when compared to his actions in the beginning of the arc. Speaking of the Cell Saga, let's go to point number 2, regression. I want you to think back to when Trunks fights Perfect Cell. He uses Super Saiyan Grade 3, sacrificing mobility and speed for power, to the point that in the manga, Trunks never lands a single hit on Cell while he's in this form. It's explicitly to show Trunks' inexperience and naivety, especially since the fight is interlaced with scenes showing what's happening in the time chamber. Goku learns Super Saiyan Grade 2 and Grade 3 extremely quickly, but as fast as he learns them, he sees their obvious weaknesses that limit their overall effectiveness. This is not just about the speed loss from Super Saiyan Grade 3 either. Grade 2 also suffers from consuming too much energy. These forms are just inefficient, gaining power in exchange for a very obvious downside. This is why Super Saiyan 2 is actually really interesting. It's a more powerful Super Saiyan form that seemingly doesn't have these issues. It is truly the form to surpass the Super Saiyan wall, an efficient and powerful evolution of Super Saiyan. So why the f is Super Saiyan 3 like this? The Super Saiyan grades exist as a warning. Their purpose is to show that there are wrong ways to go about getting stronger. That's the reason I actually like both of them, even if they're supposedly useless. They further the narrative. They lead to something better. Meanwhile, Super Saiyan 3 is the final Super Saiyan form of the original manga, and it just reintroduces some of these obvious flaws without having a greater purpose. I've said this before, so I won't harp on it too much, but you could just not have Super Saiyan 3 in the Buu saga, and things don't actually change that much. I'm not saying that characters like Buu stay as strong as they are, as this would obviously require a rewrite and not a simple what if, but would it be so bad if Goku stalled Buu in a more creative way? Would Gotenks be less cool if he was just a Super Saiyan 2 instead? Actually, we'll get back to Gotenks in a bit. The form just feels so forced, especially considering how it gets no foreshadowing, and with Goku lying, it actually gets anti-foreshadowing. Super Saiyan is foreshadowed by the legend that's repeated over the course of an entire arc. Super Saiyan 2 is foreshadowed by both Gohan's hidden potential and the hunt for a form that would surpass the Super Saiyan wall. Super Saiyan 3 gets none of that. It just shows up only to get almost immediately overshadowed, which is actually my next point. While Super Saiyan 3 has a cool introduction, it doesn't really do much. And when I say it doesn't do much, I'm not just talking about winning fights either. It just isn't that present in most of the series, and it's honestly replaced by other new things pretty quickly. The first is fusion. Like I said, Super Saiyan 2 Gotenks would have been fine, and Vegito doesn't even use anything besides regular Super Saiyan, but he's such a beast and a fan favorite anyway. Honestly, I just think more people like Vegito than Super Saiyan 3, but maybe I'm out of touch. You can let me know in the comments. But let's not forget the other new form of the arc, Ultimate. Now, I'm sure the Dragon Ball movies make you think of Super Saiyan 3 as the better form, but narratively, even if it's a bit redundant, Gohan having untapped hidden power and getting an efficient transformation to access that power with is way better than the problems Super Saiyan 3 causes for Goku's character in this arc. And more importantly, Gohan continues to use his ultimate form while Super Saiyan 3 makes seemingly no progress. In Super, we're instantly shown that Super Saiyan 3 is far behind the powers that Goku will face in the story with a flick heard around the world. It was on King Kai's planet, though, so I guess it wasn't that hard to hear. The God forms obviously go on to replace Super Saiyan 3 as well, but even worse, in the anime's version of the Tournament of Power, it's heavily implied that Super Saiyan 3 is far less efficient than even Super Saiyan God in Goku's fight with Kale and Caulifla. Honestly, Caulifla, if you're watching this, give up on Super Saiyan 3. There are better forms available. Hell, Goku doesn't even use it when using all of his transformations against Jiren in the anime. This isn't even just a canon thing either. either. In GT, we see Super Saiyan 3 twice, once without a tail and once with. The idea was Goku having a tail would make him strong enough to beat Baby, but nope, he gets Super Saiyan 4 instead because Super Saiyan 3 can't do shit. It's so funny to think Super Saiyan 3 had one chance to get a pretty notable W, beating Buu in Goku's first fight with him, but instead he chooses to let the kids handle it, and even with them using Super Saiyan 3, they don't manage to do it either. Something I think of as Goku's greatest failure, but even ignoring Goten and Trunks being failures, I think they're the best way to use Super Saiyan 3. Like I've been explaining, most of the reasons to dislike Super Saiyan 3 narratively are Goku-centric. But Goten and Trunks don't have that same baggage. Instead of them copying Super Saiyan 3, why not have them discover it? It may sound dumb, but having the inexperienced kids discover a form that increases their power at the cost of efficiency makes way more sense. Gotenks is already a gag-heavy character, so this could be a classic Toriyama gag scene too. And the setup is already baked into the manga. We see that after a week of training in the time chamber, Goten and Trunks are exhausted as they talk about achieving a level beyond Super Saiyan. Cut the part of them explaining the stamina and fusion time limit issues for now. Then imagine we didn't know about Super Saiyan 3 yet. You'd think they meant Super Saiyan 2. Eventually, they would get betrayed and trapped in the time chamber, only to then reveal their new form, Super Saiyan 3, and its power blows Piccolo away. He really thinks they can beat Buu now. Meanwhile, Goku is watching them from the realm of the Kaioshin with Elder Kai's crystal ball. While Supreme Kai and Kibito are in awe of Gotenks' power, Goku is a bit skeptical. The fight with Super Buu plays out the same, still ending with Gotenks losing the form and defusing early, explaining then that they knew about this weakness and decided to use it anyway. There's no regression, no character assassination, and not nearly as much of an issue with overshadowing, since the form is supposed to be bad. It also leaves Gotenks an exclusive form to build off of in the future that would be entirely his own. In the same way, we have exclusive forms for most characters now. So if the Buu Saga really needed Super Saiyan 3, I think it should have been a Gotenks exclusive form. But it wasn't, so it sucks. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and thank you so very much for watching. This is probably my most requested what if of all time, and that's likely due to the success of What If Broly was sent to Earth and What If Goku was sent to Beerus's planet. We did combine those two what ifs for a one-time special, but here is a more permanent and possibly continuing story. What would happen should both Goku and Broly be sent to Earth? Before we dive deeper into that, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more Dragon Ball content just like this. Also, just so you know, there will be a Beerus Pokemon team premiering on the second channel right after this premiere. So make sure you go and check that out as well. Our what if begins 5 years before the birth of Goku. This is when Broly is exiled by King Vegeta, but just like in my What If Broly Was Sent to Earth series, Paragus is able to redirect the course of Broly's pod before it takes off, sending him to Earth instead of the predestined location of Vampa. This does unfortunately lead to the death of Paragus by King Vegeta's hand, since he had committed treason, and simply exiling Broly was already a mercy in itself. So Broly is sent to Earth and found by Grandpa Gohan, who does his best to raise the rambunctious child. After narrowly surviving a night with Ozaru Broly, mainly surviving by hiding away and launching small attacks to keep him at bay, he quickly realizes that Broly must stay far away from the full moon unless he wishes to end his life rather quickly. This did leave Broly with some battle scars though, as Grandpa Gohan was able to catch the Saiyan off guard in his Ozaru form while trying to slow him down and make sure he doesn't destroy the planet. Unlike a young Goku, Broly is rather timid in general and thus listens to Grandpa Gohan's warnings regarding going outside in the full moon. Then, 5 years later, another spaceship lands in the woods of Mount Paozu, this time containing the Saiyan who would become Son Goku. Grandpa Gohan had already named Broly Goten before he knew the Ozaru form existed, so he decided to name this child Goku, since he more than likely has the same monstrous monkey transformation. For the sake of making this easy to understand as a listener, I will be referring to Goten as Broly for the rest of the story. Together, they all lived in what could only be described as peace to some degree, until one day the rather rambunctious Goku picked a fight with Broly. The two fell into a ravine, both hitting their heads in the landing. This made Goku a more happy-go-lucky child and made Broly only have access to his resting power level of 920, locking away his enraged power level even further into his psyche. With Goku being far more tame and Broly having no outbursts, life seemed like it would go well for the Son family on Mount Paozu. However, Goku wasn't as good at listening as Broly was. One night, he went out and witnessed the full moon, becoming an Ozaru and killing Grandpa Gohan. Broly was inside their home at the time, so he believed it to be the full moon monster like Goku does in the main timeline, and he tells Goku as such. Now, it was up to Broly and Goku to survive alone. Together, they kept up their martial arts training that Grandpa Gohan had taught them, and this raised Goku to incredible heights. Before Bulma was even a character in the story, Goku's power level was over 900 since he trained with Broly for many, many years, garnering not only experience, but also some minor zenkais from the damage he took sparring with his brother. From here, things are easy throughout Dragon Ball. Pilaf and his crew are a joke, and Goku and Broly still meet Muten Roshi and thus train alongside him with Krillin. Having these two as disciples pushed Roshi to employ the secret training that he did in Dragon Ball Super, or else he wouldn't be able to keep up with them and give them a good fight in the Tenkaichi Budokai. Krillin also grows massively due to these Saiyans being his rivals. The first Tenkaichi Budokai is a complete wash for the Turtle School. However, Broly is able to eliminate Roshi before the final round, and the same happens to Krillin by Goku. This leads to the climactic final fight between Broly and Goku, which is narrowly won by the slightly older Broly's height advantage, allowing his final kick to make contact while Goku's didn't. From here, Goku and Broly go on a quest to get the 4-star Dragon Ball. This leads to the two Saiyans completely dismantling the Red Ribbon Army. Even Tao Pai Pai isn't a challenge for them, so Master Karin's training is unnecessary. After they defeat Tao, Broly suggests that they could use the Dragon Balls to revive Grandpa Gohan, and Goku agrees. This journey for all the Dragon Balls leads to the destruction of the Red Ribbon Army, but does necessitate that they fight in Baba's tournament to find the final Dragon Ball. With Broly and Goku, the tournament is a complete breeze, but then a mysterious challenger enters the arena with a halo and a mask. This mysterious man asks to face both Broly and Goku at once, and Baba agrees so long as he's sure he can beat them. The man nods, despite knowing he can't. Broly and Goku begin their assault on the man and are surprised to find that he's holding his own against them. Eventually, he grabs their tails and incapacitates them, swinging the two around with ease until suddenly their tails snap off. The man surrenders once this happens and reveals that he is their Grandpa Gohan. The two are overwhelmed by this and quickly run and hug their grandfather, who chastises them for not having trained their tails appropriately. He tells the two that he had been training in the afterlife, so he'd be ready for the day that they'd meet again in death. That's when Broly remembers and tells Grandpa Gohan that they are collecting the Dragon Balls so they can wish him back to life. Grandpa Gohan just smiles and tells them not to bother. In the afterlife, he can train with countless masters, and he's already lived a full life. They would meet again when the time was right. Before he leaves, Grandpa Gohan tells them to train up and enter the Tenkaichi Budokai in 3 years. He's already aware that they entered this year's. So, the two Saiyans that consider themselves brothers at this point look at each other and race off into the world, ready to face the world and train by doing so. From here, things are easy again. Ten Shinhan is a non-threat since everyone is so strong, and it's easy to convince him to join their side when he sees the failings of the Crane School in comparison. Tambourine is a joke to Krillin, so he's easily defeated and the 6 Dragon Balls are secured. Even the Demon King Piccolo is a joke, but Master Karin warns Roshi that they need to seal the Demon King away rather than kill him, or else Kami will die as well. With his power far greater than originally, Master Roshi is able to beat down Piccolo and seal him away before he can regain his youth or produce a reincarnation. This leaves us with no Piccolo Jr. in sight. Master Karin reaches out to Roshi once again and informs him that Kami wishes to meet both Broly and Goku. The two Saiyans make their way to Master Karin's tower, and the Master tells them to use the power pole to make their way even further up. They do, and they arrive at Kami's lookout only to find Mr. Popo, who tells them that they must be tested before they are allowed to meet God. Despite Popo being more skilled than them, he is defeated by both in a one-on-one fight, which means they are allowed to meet with Kami. When he reveals himself, they are immediately startled because Kami's face is that of Piccolo's. He is barely able to avoid their attacks before explaining who he is. Kami sees a bit of himself in these two. They probably aren't from this world just like he isn't, so he wants to help them grow into better people and better fighters as well. Perhaps one day one of them could even replace him as God of Earth. Perhaps. The next Tenkaichi Budokai arrives 3 years later, and now both Goku and Broly were pretty much fully grown. Broly had been taller for some time, but was now at his full adult height. Goku still has some growing to do overall. With no Piccolo, this tournament was simply for fun. Ten Shinhan, Krillin, and even Yamcha participated. However, another contestant entered the mix as well, Chi-Chi. Goku still made a promise to marry her, and that makes sense considering Goku is the same age as her, whereas Broly is 5 years older. This leads us beautifully to the marriage of Goku and Chi-Chi, but not before the tournament concludes. The battle goes on, and slowly but surely it is clear that the finals will once again be Goku and Broly. The difference? Goku actually wins this time. Since he's no longer outranged as heavily due to Broly's height, Goku's combat prowess in terms of tactics really shines here, and it nets him a victory despite the two Saiyans being nearly even in terms of raw power. The two are rivals. No, brothers with a slight competitive edge. After the Tenkaichi Budokai, the two build houses in Mount Paozu, one for Broly and one for Goku and Chi-Chi. Times are peaceful, and Gohan is born a year later. Then, 4 years after that, there's a reunion at Master Roshi's house on his island, which is interrupted by the abrupt arrival of an unknown man with a tail. The man reveals himself to be Raditz, and more importantly, that he is Goku's older brother. But Goku tells him that he isn't and points to Broly, saying that that's his older brother. There is no way someone as cruel as Raditz could be related to him. This is, of course, after Raditz slapped Krillin through Kame House. However, this time, Krillin brushes it off rather easily. Their powers had grown over time. Remember, Broly and Goku started the series with power levels in the 900s, so they only got stronger from there. A big part of Dragon Ball is training to overcome the power that's in front of you. The humans and side characters in the series get their biggest power boosts when they see how far ahead Goku is. And Goku gets his biggest power-ups when he sees how far ahead someone else is. So this would be no different. Raditz tries to grab Gohan, but before he can, Goku and Broly grab him and fly away from Kame House. They need to go somewhere less populated for this fight to happen unrestricted. Once they enter a wasteland, the two Saiyans take their fighting stances and power up. Raditz's scouter begins to go up until it reaches 1600 for each of them. By having each other to spar and grow stronger off of, as well as learning key control from Kami, Goku and Broly both managed to become incredibly strong during the time skip. Individually, they've surpassed Raditz, so when they work together, the Saiyan is a joke. On his deathbed, Raditz says he can't believe how strong these two are, and his only regret was having not killed more Earthlings before he died. Broly is still calm, but Goku looks a bit more enraged by this. He asks him how many people did he kill, and Raditz simply replies, "Not enough," coughing up blood as he does. Goku tells Raditz that it doesn't matter, since they can revive these people he killed with the Dragon Ball. They can grant any wish after all. And he says, "Well, that's useful information to know. Good thing my allies were listening in on the conversation of ours." Goku and Broly know that they have to train, so they're ready for this threat. But they weren't sure what they could do. Their best option was to go back to Kami and seek his training once again. Perhaps Kami could teach them something more that could amplify their power even further. Before we dive deeper into that, though, make sure you hit like and subscribe if you want to see more Dragon Ball content. Once the two Saiyans arrive at Kami's lookout, they explain what has happened and how they need to prepare themselves for the upcoming fight with the Saiyans from space. Kami looks at them to assess what they should do, and he tells them to wait a moment. Kami instantly vanishes from in front of them. He teleported to King Yama's office, where he asked if Goku and Broly could travel Snake Way in order to train with King Kai. King Yama wasn't really interested in having living beings in Otherworld, but so long as they weren't going to heaven or hell, he would let them go to Kaio's world since it technically isn't the afterlife. However, he warned Kami that should they fall off Snake Way, he would not rescue them. Kami thanks Yama and teleports back to the lookout where he tells Goku and Broly that they will train for the next year with a god of even higher standing than himself. Goku becomes extremely excited at the prospect of training with someone stronger than Kami, but he realized that he has to do something before they go. Goku calls the Kinto-un that he and Broly used to ride together on everywhere before they learned the art of flying themselves, and he sets off to Master Roshi's island. Once there, he gets Gohan, but first he warns them that a threat is coming and they need to train for it. Goku tells them to get Tenshinhan and Yamcha and head to Kami's lookout. He will ask Kami to train them all. Goku grabs Gohan and heads back to Mount Paozu, where he tells Chi-Chi of the upcoming threat to the world. She understands that Goku needs to train and tells him that he better get strong enough to protect the world for their son's sake. However, Goku wasn't done there. He can sense something, a power boiling inside of Gohan ready to come out. It's actually something he senses in Broly too, but Gohan's feels like it's more ready to be accessed, not suppressed by something external like Broly's is. If these Saiyans are really as strong as Raditz made them out to be, then there's a chance they'll need all the help they can get. Chi-Chi tells Goku to forget it, he has to study, and more importantly than that, he's 4 years old, a toddler. Goku thinks she's right for a second, but then Kami enters their minds and tells Chi-Chi that he could offer Gohan a godly education alongside training should she let him come to the lookout. He won't even let Gohan go to the battlefield unless absolutely needed as well. Chi-Chi didn't want to, but having Gohan be educated by God was basically a dream come true, and just like she learned martial arts to defend herself, Gohan probably should as well. Goku tells Chi-Chi she can call the Kinto-un whenever she wants to visit Gohan throughout the year, and so he sets off, heading back to Kami's lookout so he and his son can begin their training. In the original story, it took Goku over 6 months to reach the end of Snake Way, but in this version, both Goku and Broly are almost 4 times the power and speed of the original version of Goku, so they managed to make the journey in a month and a half. Luckily, they had 4 senzu each, so they were able to be nourished for the entire journey. Once they arrive on Kaio's world, they have a little less than 10 months to train with him since the Saiyans were just over 11 months away in the original story. Notably, by training with King Kai originally, Goku got 20 times stronger, and for this version of events, we will say that the same happens to our 2 Saiyans as well, considering that they have more time, but there should also be diminishing returns when it comes to King Kai's training. So this is really a generous estimate. With this training, Goku and Broly are at power levels of 32,000 each. And now, you can see that we have some strong boys on our hands. King Kai still forgets to account for the journey back along Snake Way, so Goku and Broly start heading back as quickly as they can. Luckily, their speed is immense, and it should only take them an hour to return back to Earth. Because of this, the two arrive at Kami's lookout a day before the Saiyans arrive on Earth. They meet up with the other Z fighters, and Goku is reunited with his son, and realizes that Kami removed the child's tail, just like he did with Goku and Broly's several years ago. Everyone is startled by the 2 Saiyans' immense strength, and that strength is without the Kaioken even being used. After a day of rest and relaxation, the battle was at hand. All of our heroes, with the exception of Gohan, fly to the wasteland and ready themselves for the arrival of the Saiyans. A city is destroyed before the Saiyans arrive at the site of their battle, and Goku is clearly furious by the senseless loss of life. So, when the 2 arrive, he can't wait to fight. They split up into groups for this battle. Tenshinhan, Krillin, and Yamcha fight Nappa, while Goku and Broly go somewhere nearby to face down Vegeta. Goku tells Broly that he'll take Vegeta on first, and Broly agrees. Vegeta powers up to his maximum and looks to see Goku cower in fear, but instead, he smiles. Goku was hoping for a good fight, but he was way out of Vegeta's league, something he learned very quickly. Meanwhile, Nappa is discovering something very similar. The humans in this version are much stronger due to their visible goal of Goku and Broly existing, so they were already around power levels of 1000 when arriving at Kami's lookout for training. In the original story, they went from power levels of 200 to 15 to 1800. Now, considering that's a 7 to 9 times multiplier, and Nappa is only at a power level of 4000, it isn't really that hard to picture these humans getting at least 5 times stronger from their training with Kami, and thus being well above Nappa's power level. This doesn't stop Nappa from bringing out the Cybermen to aid in the fight, and the humans treat these little creatures as a warm-up. Even when Yamcha becomes overconfident and has one explode on him, he's able to shrug it off with ease. This, of course, leads to the defeat and death of Nappa. I seem to get a good amount of people who are confused when I kill off Nappa in these stories, and while I can understand sparing Nappa in some circumstances, this just isn't one of them. There's no way a character like Ten Shinhan and even Krillin would let Nappa live after murdering a whole city. The whole not killing thing is something Goku adopted as an adult, and only for 3 arcs. Check out my Morality of Goku video if you want to learn more about that. With Nappa defeated, the humans fly over to see Goku is easily beating Vegeta. Vegeta notices that the humans are here, and that means that Nappa has been defeated. Goku eventually gets Vegeta to the point where he's willing to end him, but Vegeta begs for mercy, saying he'll leave the planet and never return if Goku lets him go. So, Goku, in a moment of naivety and open-mindedness, decides to let Vegeta go. But all is not as it seems. Vegeta wasn't trying to leave the planet. He was looking for the moon, and since Piccolo wasn't around to destroy it in this version of events, he finds the moon and begins to transform into the mighty Ozaru. Goku, Broly, and the others can sense the power growing in the distance, and they fly over to figure out what Vegeta is doing and stop it. But they're too late. They arrive to find an Ozaru Vegeta with a power level of 180,000, outclassing the Kaioken times 2 limit King Kai set for them, and even a times 4 or times 5.
No.
That doesn't stop Goku from trying, though. He instantly begins to use Kaioken times 5, but it just isn't enough. The other Z-Fighters try to help by distracting Vegeta with small coordinated strikes, but he begins to swat them away like flies, eventually grabbing Goku and squeezing the life out of him. But where's Broly? The tall Saiyan couldn't believe his eyes. His mind races back to a time long ago, when he was still a child on Mount Paozu with Goku and Grandpa Gohan, to the night when Goku snuck outside during a full moon, to the night when Broly peeked out a window, the night that
I'm
Broly saw a
tired.
monster.
I need to
Grandpa.
stop playing this.
Vegeta looked just like that monster, and because of that, the head bump couldn't stop his outburst from happening. Overflowing emotions and